You guys, it's Friday, and you know what Friday means. We have another Life by You update. I feel like I look forward to this day every single day of the week. They're so consistent with their updates. Like, we know we're going to be getting something, and we patiently wait for it, and then we get it, and then at least me, in my opinion, I'm blown away by it, and then I'm left anticipating the next update. So early access for Life by You is starting early next year. I believe it's sometime in March 2024, but of course, until then, they're going to be showing us little bits and pieces of gameplay, their build buy mode, their create a character mode. I don't really know if they have official names for these modes yet, like we have in The Sims, but so far with what we've seen, I'd say things have been pretty good. So today, they're going to be talking about collecting and crafting. They teased this last week, or maybe it was the week before, but we haven't really seen too much into this. So without further ado, let's see how deep collecting and crafting really goes in Life by You.
Welcome everybody back to Life by You and this introductory video on the new crafting system that we just added to the game.
This is what I'm talking about. This is the energy that we need. Like, pump me up, give me enthusiasm, give me excitement, show me that you're excited and passionate about this game. I just feel like sometimes the voiceovers are just so like half asleep, and I don't mean that in a like negative way, but I guess it kind of does come off negative. I'm not gonna hold back my thoughts though, because I am like the biggest advocate for constructive criticism. I think there's always a way any game company can be improving their products or improving the way that they showcase them to their players. And I really like the way they're going about this just from the first couple of seconds here.
My name is Willem Delventhal, and I'm actually the newest game designer on the team. This is my first video, so great to meet all of you.
Hopefully it's not your last, because let's go. I'm loving the energy. Also, the beach was so cute. That beach is adorable. I want to see some swimming. I want to see some ocean swimming.
Game designers primarily work on the systems and mechanics of the game to find the fun, and I was tasked with creating a fun and satisfying crafting system for all of you. Now, remember, before anything else, that all of this may well change. That is a big part of game design, iterating until we really make something awesome.
There's like so much going on that I don't even know what to comment on first. She was like clipping through the bush there, but there was a lot of stuff in this girl's inventory, like a lot.
Now, the four primary crafting categories that we decided to include in the game are archaeology, floristry, beachcombing, and jewelry making. And I'm going to go through each of those four categories and tell you what they're like in the game.
Whoa, 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 whoa.
Work with many different departments to make this possible, including some of the people you may already know, like,
oh my gosh, mixed pink seeds, wildflower corsage, gardening tables. Oh my, this is so cool. And the fact that they're most likely going to be expanding on this and adding more with time, this is amazing, guys. There's going to be so much to do in the gameplay. Is anyone else just getting Sims 3 vibes? Like, seriously. What's crazy is we kind of have barely scratched the surface too. I'm sure there's way more, and this goes much, much deeper, and they probably won't even be able to cover all of it in this video.
Like Amanda and Leslie are engineers to make the actual mechanics and the code underneath the system, and artists like Sean Nakamura to make these beautiful flower models that you're going to see in just a moment. Now, the first thing you're going to notice that's different is troves peppered around your region. A trove is kind of like a little treasure chest that you can find in one of the four primary crafting categories. So you might find an archaeology trove or a beachcombing trove in corresponding locations. Opening a trove requires no skill and actually progresses your skill in the corresponding category, and it makes your character a little bit more happy. The items inside are randomized, but they're randomized within subcategories. So for instance, you might find a purple wildflower trove, or perhaps an arms and armor archaeology stash. They appear all the time, and if you took a casual scroll across the world, you'd find about a dozen of them, and every time you collect a trove, you'll get a number of ingredients that you can use in crafting for the four primary categories.
Oh, that's cool. So there's a lot of different options. Like, there's so much that you can find. Like, as you build up and collect these ingredients that are in the troves over time, you use them on the crafting table.
Those subcategories of troves have tendencies for where they appear, and you'll probably start to notice them as you collect the troves. So for instance, did you know that purple wildflowers seem to like high elevation, and that archaeology troves seem to like hillsides and rocky areas? The first primary crafting category is archaeology, where you, the player, can collect and study artifacts that you find around the world, writing research papers, creating unique item and and furniture out of them, and all sorts of other goodies. Interestingly, as you become a more and more famous archaeologist, you will actually get noticed for your work. You'll be more likely to get published, you'll make more money from publishing, and people will actually start to mention you. Characters in your town might write you and tell you what they thought of your latest research paper.
That's so cool. So like you're making these things, you can sell them, you can put them in your house, and as you're discovering things, you kind of also have like a claim to fame. I wonder if that's something that you can turn on or off, if that's something you don't want, but it's cool how you can become famous for this sort of thing. Gosh, this is so cool. So you have a recipe list, and then when you click on each recipe card, it has a different thing. It requires artifacts, and they also have substitute artifacts. Of course, at the bottom, it tells you what you're missing, but there's a lot of different stuff you can do. I'm assuming the little number at the corner is the level that's required, and that's why the archaeology table and the ancient beer recipe are locked. They're too high of a level, but I'm assuming that he has access to do everything else that isn't grayed out. The level 0, the level 1, and level 2, because it does say skill level at the top, so that's why I'm assuming that number means skill level, but this is so neat.
Now, writing research papers and writing books are actually two different systems, and it only corresponds with the skill that is the expertise on that research paper, so archaeology or other skills that you might write research papers about. We decided to add archaeology to the game because it just feels right. It's fun to explore and find old parts of the world and try to piece together the mysteries of what happened.
That's cool. So is there lore? I feel like that is one thing they kind of haven't touched too much on, is lore. Maybe not just like lore of the townies, but more so lore of the world. So will archaeology really help us discover that? Or is that just something that he's saying, you know? Like how deep does that actually go into the gameplay? Like the more that we explore this, are we actually really going to find out more stuff about the world? Because if so, then that's really exciting.
The second primary crafting category is floristry, where the player can find wildflowers around the world that they can then harvest and turn into all sorts of interesting and useful items. For instance, the player can make unique furniture, much like many of the other crafting categories. But even more interesting is they can turn those wildflowers into mixed seeds. So for instance, if I find a bunch of pink wildflowers, I can turn them into mixed pink seeds. And if I plant these mixed pink seeds and perhaps fertilize them and water them over time, I can then get a random pink flower of a random type. More rare flowers will appear less often, and less rare flowers will of course appear more often. I can then harvest those flowers once they have grown, and I can place them in vases around my town and my house in order to really beautify my world.
So it's just like a random outcome of if you get a more rare type or a more common type of flower.
You can find wildflowers all over your region, but just like every other crafting category, they tend to like specific spots. So another fun tip for you, blue wildflowers seem to like forests. Growing flowers is different from finding flowers. So wildflowers are the item that you can find inside of troves that are just used for crafting. They are ingredients. But growing a flower can actually be harvested as a real object and placed in a vase out in the world. Now, the third primary crafting category is beachcombing, where the player can explore the beachside to find seashells and other interesting items, but they can also find other things at unique bodies of water. For instance, there's only one spot where you can find Arctic seashells in the entire region. You'll have to discover that for yourself.
Yeah, don't tell us.
There are all sorts of different items that are found in beachcombing troves, largely seashells, but there are also some unique minerals and a few other unique items. And much like the other crafting categories, you can turn these ingredients into unique pieces of furniture, but also fertilizer to be used in gardening and floristry, and a couple of other unique recipes. We decided to add beachcombing to the game simply because our starting town is on the water, and it felt like a great way to add some variety and flavor to your walks along the beach. Now, the final primary crafting category is jewelry making, where you can find rare gemstones, crystals, minerals, and turn them into jewelry and unique items and furniture, just like the other crafting categories. You can mine or find these jewelry making troves all over the town, but mostly they tend to prefer mountainous regions. You can turn these items into, like I said, jewelry and furniture furniture, but also a couple of unique things like this beautiful gemstone wall hanger.
Make your own jewelry with the things that you find.
There is no required skill to pick up a jewelry making trove, but as you pick them up, you will actually progress down your jewelry making skill. We decided to add jewelry making because it just felt like it fit in a world that relies so much on fashion and dressing up your character. My personal favorite part of the crafting system in general is probably the unique pieces of furniture that you can get per primary crafting category. Right now, each of those 4 primary crafting categories has 4 unique furniture items that you'll be able to unlock and add to the game. You first need to find the recipes for these pieces of furniture out in a trove in the wild. Once you learn the recipe, you can create the piece of furniture. You can sell these pieces of furniture, but of course the best part is placing them in your home and world to beautify and express yourself.
I wonder how many like unique combinations of things you can craft are like in total. Like I really want to know the total number of unique variations of everything, like all the different flowers, all the different jewelry types. There's going to be a lot to explore with this, a lot to discover, and it's probably going to take some time, which is something that we need in a game like this, you know? That's replay value right there. Like that's something that's going to want to bring me back in to keep playing the game so I can keep discovering things instead of just doing it and it's like a one and done kind of thing. And that's where The Sims 4 really suffers.
My personal favorite piece of furniture is probably the Victorian bed because it's just ridiculously huge and takes up way too much space. All right, that is the 4 primary crafting categories and an overview of what each of them does and how each of them works. We hope that this allows you to really embody many of your favorite crafting fantasies, become that famous archaeologist, run your own flower shop from out of your home, create unique furniture and dress up your town. This also acts as a great template to allow you to add crafting of any variety to the world. Whatever your ideal crafting hobby is, you can add it to the game as a mod and then share it with other players.
That's so cool. I'm gonna have my characters running all throughout this world looking for shit. It's gonna be a lot of fun. A lot of fun.
I am actually really excited to see what all of you add to the game for yourselves and for each other. If you take nothing else away from this video, I hope that you feel that item crafting is a fun system that allows the gating of exciting items and furniture behind a satisfying piece of collectathon and crafting gameplay. You can really make people earn cool items through your own mods, and of course we've prepared a number of wonderful little items for you to find, craft for yourself. Now before we go, I would actually love to ask you for some feedback. I have a couple of things that I've been wondering about the crafting system, and iterating on this design is how we make something wonderful. So I've got 3 questions for you. My first one is very specific. Should I use simpler furniture items like tables and chairs as an ingredient in recipes?
Yes.
So, for example, if I wanted to make the resin wildflower table, I could make it so that you have to go and buy a regular table to then turn into the resin wildflower table. I kind of like this in a sort of DIY mentality, but I'm not sure I like the fact that you have to go and buy something to craft something. So let me know what you think of that.
I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Could you imagine what we could craft with any of the objects that they have in the Build Buy catalog that you can purchase? Like there's so many possibilities for that. That flower resin table is really cool.
Second thing is more open-ended. I just want to know if there's other gameplay you'd like to see in these primary 4 categories. So for example, what else might seashell crafting do? Right now you can turn it into unique furniture like every category, but you can also create fertilizer, and that's the main utility you get out of it. You can use that fertilizer in gardening. And my last question for you is just what are some other crafting categories you might like to see in the game, either big or small? I'm really curious to see what you all mod for yourself, but it's possible that we add a couple of other small things here and there as we go. Okay, that's going to be it. I hope you enjoyed. Once again, I'm Willem Delventhal, and this has been a wonderful introduction to crafting in Life by You.
You guys see that weird animation of her getting in bed? That was so, yeah. I feel like the animations are going to be very weird with this one, guys. It's just, some of the stuff just seems really unnatural, and as much as I want to ignore it, I can't ignore it. It's there, and it's just how I feel, so I'm gonna say it. But I am curious to read some of these comments here because Life by You is actually responding to people here. For crafting, I'd love to see the option of buying an item like a table, finding one out in the world during trash day or behind stores or abandoned buildings, and making one entirely entirely from scratch. Each would yield a different unique crafting item. I would love to see crafting unique clothing items, old items from the 80s, 90s, and 2000s like music memorabilia, made up or parodies of course, fine china to decorate and use, comic books, and unidentifiable objects that can't be explained. I like that. Life by You responds, thank you so much for the suggestion. Searching for neat finds. Another user writes, probably too much of a big addition to ask for at this stage, but something like metalworking might be cool too. The ability to make metal decorations or maybe even parts for cars you could sell off to stores for income. Oh, that's cool. They noted that suggestion too. Someone brings up the beach seeming quite dead, and Life by You responds and noting your feedback on the beach. God, I love how they're just like listening to people. Like they're just like fully interacting with us, you know, and letting us know that they hear us. Whether changes are actually implemented is one thing, but it's still nice when developers tell you like, we're noting that, we're looking into that. Thank you for your feedback, you know? I really like this team. I really do like them. Let me know what you guys think below of the collecting and crafting system. It is just a little bit confusing to me. It just seems like there's so much going on, but I think what I'm also excited for with this is the ability to mod it, because this is the most moddable life sim, as they've said multiple times. So we're gonna be able to change so many aspects of the crafting system. We've kind of seen a little bit into that earlier on when they showed off some of the modding tools. And you know, he also mentions here what modders are going to create and add. So I'm assuming that we're gonna be able to create our own crafting systems as well. Share your thoughts below. Interested to see and hear what you guys think of this. Of course, if there's any more info or news, I'll be back as soon as possible. Thank you for watching. So long and happy life simming.